12.7, it requires that in the health building, if we intend or expect that the repair would be $100,000 or more, then plans and specifications must be approved by a licensed architect or engineer. RQAW is one of these. This would be a professional services contract. It's governed by Indiana Code 5-22-61. Owen County Ordinance 2018-002, and that's in section 22. So what's being proposed today is RQAW can go and do an examination of what we used to call the prior health building to repair that wall. They have presented a proposal to you. It should take in the range of 14 to 21 days to complete this project, which is required by law. The total professional fee is $3,500 and reimbursable expenses in the range of $300. So even though this is a small purchase expenditure, it'd be my recommendation that you did still make a formal motion. It's under the professional services contract, but the above statutes, and if someone says, well, why do I have to do it? It's absolutely required by Indiana law for that proposal. Now, once they have this done, then we could send out and bid and quote health building. So you have a proposal from RQAW, the scope of services. They'll do an on-site exterior wall assessment, report of findings. Commissioners, they will need one person to contact to be the lead. So they need one of the three commissioners to take responsibility. I think they'd like to get started on this very soon. And hopefully if we can get this done in 21 days, we can get the bids out here before the end of the year.
Sounds real good. And appreciate you reaching out to RQAW. I know that they do work for the county and have with Chris's building and jail project that we've been discussing. And they've given us an extremely fair price here. So with that being said, is there any other discussion before I bring it to a motion? Okay. Bob is over our maintenance. So Joel, unless you have an objection, let's make him our contact on that. Obviously, he can fall back on us if he needs to or whatever. So, do I hear a motion?
I think it would be wise, Gary, and also include the tenant of the current building now, EMA Director Jack White. He should be somewhat involved with this as far as
in case we need another contact.
Logistics. I have no problem with that at all.
Okay.
I don't know how busy Jack gets, but I'm sure he could talk to somebody if they needed to talk to him.
So do I hear a motion to approve the RQAW contract to give us a findings on the repair of the health building wall?
I'll make a motion to approve RQAW to maintenance or repair the health building.
And do I hear a second? Second. Got a motion by Joel, second by Bob. All in favor? Aye. Bob will be the contact point with Jack up as a backup in case they need to get in the building, so on and so forth. This contract is required signature by the president, so.
Yep.
Motion to approve.
Motion to approve.
Okay.
Second.
Okay. We're getting back feet here. And this would be paid out of cube cap, Sheila.
And commissioners, if that would be possible, one more thing the auditor needs to do, if this could be scanned and either emailed or faxed, whatever is the most convenient to RQAW, that once they have it, they're ready to proceed.
If you could do that tomorrow, Sheila, or have some of your staff do that, that would be excellent. Here, Joe, I'll let you put that in the basket down there. All right, moving forward, Kathleen, 911. Good evening.
So you guys should have a packet and equipment lease summary from Shelby Products LLC in your guys' packets that you received. You also will have a letter for them saying that they are the sole provider, and then you should also have a letter from myself stating the same. This is a lease for our chairs within the dispatch center. They are a special chair. They're just not a chair that you can go purchase from Office Depot or anything like that. It is a 24/7 chair that is built specifically 4 911 communication centers to handle the wear and tear of being used and satted 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. So with this lease program, what it provides to us is, it's a 3-year lease. This is an additional lease. We currently are under one with them now. You guys signed a lease before I came on with them to get this into the new facility. So that expires in January of '23, so this is to pick up the lease and kind of continue. This will go until January 2026. So it is to provide 5 chairs for us. They get replaced annually. If they start to wear down, break, anything happens, I contact them, they send me the parts and I fix them myself. If it's something that is above me, they do have an area person that can come out and repair them as well. So that I've never been charged for any of that type of.
All part of the lease agreement.
All part of the lease agreement.
Kathleen, I'm looking through here and I've got it in front of me and I kept flipping. I don't see a signature page or anything.
It's on the very back.
Oh.
It's for me and then for me to sign and then a witness, it's on page 7. So I can.
Well, I only have 4 pages, so I'm short somewhere. Yeah.
Yeah, you should have 7 pages.
Yeah, we all have 4. As long as you're the one signing the contract and we approve it, that's fine. I just want to make sure that we're getting everything taken care of for you.
Okay, so the reason it is.
She looking at attest to your signature.
Yeah, so the reason it's coming to you guys is because it is over the $5,000. And again, this is the total price, because I wanna pay for the entire lease all at once. We'll get a 2% discount, is gonna be $8,396.64. I did put this in my budget for next year and it was already approved by council, so it's just doing the paperwork and submitting, and then they won't bill us or deliver the new fleet chairs until January.
Sure. Any questions, gentlemen? Jim?
We just need a couple things for our minutes. This is a single source for supply. For minutes, this is under Indiana Code 5-22-10-13. A purchase may purchase supply if there's only one person, written determination. Your 911 director has already provided that. Shelby Products has determined in writing that they have proved that they're the sole provider. And in addition, the 911 director has vetted that and is verified. So that complies. This is mandatory reporting for both 911 and for the auditor. There must be a separate contract record kept, so the communications director will keep a file in her office with the contract, the reason for the special purchase and selection of a private contractor, and the written determination. The auditor must have all of these documents in her file. In addition, will have maintain a record of all contracts, and it has to have the contractor's name, the amount and type of each contract, and the description of supplies and purchase for each contract. These are subject to statement of accounts. Everything is in absolute order. This is actually exactly how you would want it done. Vendor written determination, director written determination, follow the statute, contract, and it's a 2% discount by doing it this way.
Excellent. Thank you, Kathleen. Do I hear a motion to approve the Shelby Products lease agreement?
Make a motion to approve the Shelby Project lease agreement.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Have a motion by Joel, seconded by Bob. All in favor? Aye.
I just have one question, Gary.
She's got one, or Bob's got one question.
2% discount, we pay in the full year, that's not a very big discount.
No, but when you take into consideration that we don't pay shipping, freight, setup, I feel like we kind of already get discounts on that stuff anyway. We've had pins break in the armchairs, and they've shipped us new arms. We don't pay shipping or anything for that. So they've even sent us like cans of silicone for the spray silicone for squeaking and everything. They don't charge us for anything after we do the purchase.
So you feel like you're getting more than your 2%?
I do, yeah.
Okay.
Another quick thing, I've not been able to give you too much of an advance notice because I just found out this weekend. I do have one of my employees that is going to be going, active reserve status starting October 1st. And he will be shipping overseas for a minimum of a year. I have also just recently lost an employee. He left to go full-time to the fire department. So I am down one employee, but I have 2 empty chairs because I still am keeping that position, obviously, for my service member that is being shipped overseas. What I am asking to try to work with, probably with the attorney and with Sheila, is a temporary placement. I'm currently going through a hiring process to replace the one vacancy that I have. I would not be able to use a temp service like they've done in the past at the jail because nobody's gonna wanna come do this job. They'll be there for a couple days, then they'll get a hold of the temp service and say, I'm not going back, assign me somewhere else, and then I won't have anyone show up for shift. So I would like to, fill this temporary position out of applicants that I have received already for the full-time spot, because they would be working, it wouldn't be a year because I'm not gonna have them hired before October 1st. But then whenever this employee comes back from service, then change them from that temporary full-time employee to a part-time employee. Or should we have another vacancy at that point, then they would take that spot.
Sure.
So I just need to, I know there's a lot of stuff that goes into play with that. Insurance, benefits, perf, because they'll be here more than 3 months. But I
They
don't
will be
know
considered a
exactly how.
full-time employee as well.
Yeah,
So you're basically just replacing the individual that's going to service, not costing any more, not
Right.
costing any less. Just the understanding that when that person comes back, that they would be put into a part-time position.
correct.
As your liaison, we've already discussed this. Now, if Jim wants to step in and tell me that we need to do something different than other than just replace these individuals. She already has one opening. She has a service member that is leaving, which we hold that position for them when they come back.
How soon does this need to be done, Commissioner?
It's not like, it's not like it has to be done tomorrow. I also
Okay.
sent him some,
Did you say sometime in October?
October
Oh,
1st
plenty
is
of
when
time,
he's
too.
leaving.
Okay.
So, and I wouldn't have anybody ready to replace, to like kind of fill that vacancy at that time. So I've also sent him another email asking about our military leave benefits that Sheila and Nicole got as well. And I understand he's prepping for other meetings tomorrow night, so I already talked to him, and it'll be after Wednesday when I hear back. So if I kind of get all of that at the same time, that would be great.
Okay.
So I have direction whenever I go into interviews and
We'll
stuff.
go to work on all this and get it lined out for you.
Perfect. All right, if you guys are good, I'm gonna leave because I coach youth sports and our tourney is tonight, so.
That's important.
Yes,
Thank you.
thank you.
Mr. Jack White.
I have 2 items for you tonight. One, I'm here on behalf of the Emergency Management Advisory Council, asking if you would consider changing the spending authority over the rebanding fund from the Advisory Council to the 911 Board. When the commissioners several years ago established that the EMAC, Emergency Management Advisory Council, would have that spending authority, the 911 Board did not exist. And over the past few years, since Kathleen's been hired, the 911 director position has been put in place. Chris Lunsford, Sheriff Hobbs, myself, and other people have handed things over to the 911 director that we have taken, that's really her job, that we have taken care of for years before she was hired. And this is just another one of those things. We really think that the EMAC and myself think that the 911 board is much better authority over this money. There's only $1,900 left in there, and when it's done, it's gone. It won't rebuild or anything. But we thought that those people in charge of communications to spend that last bit of money in the best way they know how.
I agree. The new advisory board was not in place at that time, so it's probably best that we do make this move. Anybody have any questions or concerns? Okay, with that being said, I'll go ahead and ask for a motion for the approval of transferring those funds from the EMAC to the 911 Advisory Board. Do I hear a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Have a motion by Joel, seconded by Bob. All in favor? Aye.
And the second item is the approval of the Empg Emergency Management Performance Grant doled out from the federal government through the state of Indiana, through the Department of Homeland Security for a certain part of my salary every year. And Sheila kind of bumped me up on the agenda list, I think, to get that in front of you guys. I don't think I met that requirement, and I know I won't meet it for the county council either, but I had the blessing of the president to proceed. And the deadline for the grant is the 30th of this month, but I will be on vacation next week, so it's Thursday or Friday for me this week. I have to get it in.
So the award's 18,390 and you're needing to use 14,499. Are you accepting the full grant amount or just the 14,499.37?
The way that works, the state of Indiana kind of does a smoke and mirrors thing with the match. The county's gonna pay my salary, we're gonna pay the fringe benefits, all employees get. It's just the grant process, they call that the match. What it is, the state of Indiana gets to use that match and keep that money. And this is something that really burns me, and I've complained about it and I can't get any traction. What they call obligation, that's the state of Indiana's word, the obligation to Owen County is somewhere in the neighborhood of $68,000. And we get $18,000, and they use the rest. The state of Indiana uses the rest.
Do they do that based on the size of our community?
That is where, yes, what the 2020 census information is what gives us the 18,390. And that's just how it is. That's something that just started a couple years ago. And I'm fighting that hard.
So there's $50,000 floating around out there somewhere that should be committed to Owen County that's not staying with the state somewhere, is what you're telling us.
I don't know that it's floating around. It's being used by Indiana.
Somewhere, we just don't know where.
Fund their employees is what it is, but, yeah, that's what's going on. And I've got the paperwork to prove it. So, but, yeah, 18,390, it will be the obligation or the actual payment to Owen County, and it'll help pay for my salary and fringe benefits.
So I guess my question is the other 3,000, whatever difference, where does that go, Jack?
I'm sorry.
There's 18,000 that's requested, but you're saying that they're only gonna pay, you're only gonna use 14,499, so there's a difference there between the two.
No,
Are you guys seeing it that way?
Yeah.
I probably didn't do a very good job explaining that on the current Owen County application. The way it is, the county has to pay my salary.
Right.
And then they, along with that, will pay my fringe benefits. So,
Gotcha.
and I have to do all the paperwork, and then after everything has been paid, a reimbursement of 18,390 for everything the county has paid is all we'll get back.
Okay.
It used to be 50% of my salary only.
You
And they're
good with that,
reducing
Sheila? But you see what I'm saying? There's a $3,000 difference in the numbers, but as long as the county's getting it all back, there's not that money out there that we don't know what we're gonna do with. It's going all back towards your salary.
What they do is they take the fringe benefits that the county pays, the health insurance, the FICA, and the PERF. And those numbers add up to 14,000. But it doesn't matter really what those numbers are as far as what the money we get back. We get 18,390
Regardless.
because of the census.
Okay. Do I hear a motion to approve, the EMA grant?
I make a motion to approve the EMA grant.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
And a reminder, I will be out of state next week. Thank you.
Can I ask permission to review our grant application? It still has Empg, Austin on
Oh, my.
there, and again, it just needs to be a more simpler format too.
Absolutely. Do we need to make that in a motion, Jim, or is that something we can just make an administrative decision on?
Just go ahead and make a motion.
Okay, I'll go ahead and make a motion that we allow Sheila to adjust our grant application form, better suited for a current date.
I second.
I have a second by Joel. All in favor? Aye. Chris, you're up.
I was hoping so, but I'm passing stuff out. So this is, hopefully I've got all the paperwork correct, that, we've been talking about getting, power load systems and power cots, updating our fleet of cots and everything. Again, like Kathleen presented, Stryker's the only manufacturer out there that produces power load systems. As I talked in the last meeting, there is another company out there that produces power cots, but those cots are not compatible with the power load system. So we're kind of stuck in with one group, and one company, and that's the company that the rest of our cot fleet is anyway. So it works out, I guess. I was able to talk them down on the price of the power loads a little bit more. So they went from 24,000 each to 22,000 each. So talked them down a little bit on that. Yeah, and the only thing that's not included in this is installation, and Stryker could not give me a quote on installation. I'd have to go out and find another company like we did the last time to install them. We've already got a lead on that company too, but at least we can get these ordered hopefully.
Chris, did you say this, that because of the lack of these, you've had employees down and out? Because of the heavier,
Yeah, one of the big things that puts, you hear people talk about EMS being a young person's job, and picking people up is why, picking up people, strain your back and have back injuries and such stuff as that, so definitely, hopefully it will reduce our back injuries and reduce our work comp ultimately.
Joel, so you know, and I know you're new and learning, but unfortunately, before we had these units, we had dropped an individual because of this situation, basically manually lifting individual, which resulted in some insurance situations. So we decided, what's it been, Chris, a year and a half ago, go to these power assists, maybe 2 years ago. So the savings, the money spent here
is,
savings.
I'm on board. The point I was trying to make is I wanted everybody to hear the fact that these are definitely gonna save people's backs and make it more efficient. I can assure you that, there's.
And as you heard, Chris, he's not getting any
There's
younger.
people out there. So, no, I don't have any, and these are exclusive to your buses. I mean, they only gonna fit your ambulances, is that correct?
They'll fit, they are able to be like, say if we take an ambulance out of service, and buy another ambulance,
Mhm.
these power load systems can come out and go into another ambulance. But yeah, so if we go with a different brand ambulance or whatever, it'll still fit in there.
Jim, if you got anything on this?
Yeah, we just have to do very briefly the same thing for our minutes. We're operating under Indiana Code 5-22-10. Specifically, this is a single source special purchase, Indiana Code 5-22-10-13, which allows Mr. Lunsford to award a contract for a supply when there's only one source of that supply, and the purchasing agent determines in writing that there's only one source for that supply. You have in your packet that the EMS director has received a letter from the company, from Stryker, and it says right at the first one, we are the sole manufacturer of these. Mr. Wansford has also provided you a letter saying the same for himself, that he has vetted that, and that it is a single source, therefore it does conform within the Code 522-1013. Mandatory records for both EMS director and for the auditor. The EMS director must maintain, pursuant to the Code 522-10(3), maintain contract records for the special purchase. You need to have your own letter, a letter from Stryker, which has a written determination of the special purchase and the selection of a particular contractor. The auditor needs to have also in her first file these same documents, and in addition, that has to be maintained by the auditor for 5 years, and that record must contain the contractor's name, the amount and type of each contract, and the supplies purchased under each contract. These are subject to audit by the State Board of Accounts.
Thank you. Chris, is there an actual contract or sales agreement? I see a invoice, but I don't see a signature page.
Oh, I thought you were.
Yeah, there is no signature page with it. When I tell him to go ahead, or that we're gonna go ahead, I'm sure he'll send that in.
If you could, get your signature on it, if need be, bring it to a meeting and I'll sign off on it or call me or whatever. And I just, for this amount of money, I feel that we definitely want a signature on it.
Yeah, we definitely want a signature, and the auditor needs a copy of that signature amount. This will work kind of clear. Are you giving the authorization to the EMS director to enter into the contract?
It's what we're getting ready to take a vote on. Yeah.
I did notice, Gary, that this does come with the maintenance agreement.
I seen that.
And I had one more question. I don't have a problem with it, Chris. What's the life expectancies of these beds, or these costs, you think?
Well, that's real variable, and I'll explain why. They say 7 to 8 years,
Okay.
but they also have a computer counter in them that tells how many times they went up and down and done their work. So when they say 7 to 8 years, you know, there's companies in Indianapolis that
Do that many lifts a week?
yeah.
Yeah, okay,
So it really depends on the number of hours that are on them and
Sure.
such stuff.
Yeah, other than that, I
So they're
don't.
doing an annual service regardless. They're gonna show up once a year according to this. And
As long as, yeah, and we've got one now that needs a little bit of attention. He said he'd be here Thursday, work on it for us, no cost to us.
That also takes the liability off us having a maintenance agreement on those, so that's.
Yeah, so that way, if anything ever happens, we can say, hey, look, it was maintained by professionals.
yeah, we're not liable for failure.
I agree with that 100%, so that's, I don't have a problem with it.
Gentlemen, I'll ask for a motion to let approve Chris to enter into an agreement with Stryker on these power assist units.
I'll make
COTS, if you will.
a motion, we enter in contract with Chris and Stryker.
Got a motion by Bob. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Second by Joel. Chris, you can sign that. I prefer with the amount to cover you that I sign that, so just let me know when you get it, and we'll send it off to Sheila for a copy.
Sounds good. I'll see if I can get it tomorrow, because this price expires October 1st.
Oh, you get it in there then?
Get it quick.
Let me take a vote. All in favor? Aye. Real.
Thank you very much.
Chris, can I talk about one more thing that we're dealing with in your department?
Yeah.
And stop me if I'm out of order here. We had purchased an ambulance or talked about purchasing an ambulance, and the company that we discussed this with refused to honor that agreement at $24,000 difference. Is that correct?
Yeah, they,
And I guess what
I
I'm
haven't
getting at.
received anything yet.
Final, okay.
Final saying that they're not gonna do it.
And the reason I brought it up, because if they're not going to, we need to dissolve that agreement and move forward with a new quote. So as soon as you get us that information, we need to move forward to get that ambulance reordered from whoever, wherever. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
I just know that we had discussed that and I wasn't sure where we were at, so.
Yeah, we're waiting on them to give us a final yes or no.
Outstanding. Okay, thanks. Greg, Highway.
Careful, Greg.
Thank you, Jim.
Looks like he's running beds on you.
Good evening, Commissioners. First thing I want to bring before you tonight, Commissioners, is our 4-day work week. I'm going to ask that we be able to extend the 4-day work week till correspond with payroll's cycle to November 14th of 2022. I would also request that for the purposes of 2023, I would ask that we get started and allow us to work 4-day work week during daylight savings time change.
And that's what, April to November
November 1st or whatever.
7th or something like that. So, first of all, Jim, we need to extend the
Yeah,
resolution.
I'll have the resolution for you, at the next meeting, that's no problem at all. Are you wanting the 2023 resolution also?
I think that at this time, it's working well. We're getting more production, we're saving fuel. So if we can do that now for 2023, and I have no problem personally, if these guys don't, with the daylight saving time, which again, I think is April or March, as long as it doesn't affect your school, and I think you've got someone on call if there's an issue with a tree or whatever.
So far, everything has worked well with Transportation Director Curry.
Commissioners, if I may, then what I do, if I can, I'll contact the auditor just for payroll, because we don't want to split payroll week. So we'll find those proper dates for the spring and November, and then we'll see how close they match up to those payroll dates, and then I can have both of those for
Sure.
you.
And we don't have to make any kind of movement on it tonight. It'll come back to us in a resolution at our next meeting to vote on, so.
Thank you, Commissioners. Just to report, Highway Department, since the last Commissioners meeting, received the old EMA truck. It does have stickers on it now indicating it is a Highway Department truck. We have been using it to transport personnel. We intend to put fuel tanks in it and use it for personnel transport and a fuel truck.
Excellent.
Report, Otterman Church Road, culvert replacement by Fender Excavating started today. I met with on scene first thing this morning, and then again this afternoon. The pipe was already in the ground. Compaction started. We believe we'll have the road open for traffic tomorrow with a completion by the end of the week.
Excellent.
Hauser Road project, Commissioners, Dan's Excavating moved in, I believe last Wednesday. They worked one day, they are broke down, they have something wrong with an excavator, they have not progressed any since then.
Do we have them on a timetable on their bid?
It's supposed to be in 30 days from the time it started.
Okay.
He assures me that he will be there tomorrow, just an update, so I will be there first thing in the morning.
Greg, would you follow up with me on that, please? If there's no one there or no one working, please contact me and I'll make a phone call.
I will.
Thank you.
Franklin Road Bridge, Wasatch Lake Road Bridge, bids have been let, they were awarded to CLR, and we are on target to start the replacement of those bridges in October.
Excellent. Bill from CLR sitting out there, quick question. Do you have any kind of idea on the length of that project for those two bridges? I know it's October and you don't know what the weather's gonna bring, but is that a 3-month project?
Yes.
Okay. That way for anybody that's in those areas, we got a general idea how long those are gonna be down and out, so.
Commissioners, this is for a particular bridge, so before we do any open quotes, it's my understanding there was an emergency situation at the culvert, so for our minutes, this is, we're going to operate under pursuant to Indiana Code 36-1-1209, which required the Board of Commissioners to declare an emergency of a specific area. you need a factual basis from the highway superintendent as far as what the area is, what the problems are. Once you make a vote and a declaration of emergency, then we can possibly proceed as follows.
This is on the bridge deck, correct, not a culvert?
That is correct.
Okay.
As I explained in another meeting, this is a 19-foot structure that we can date back to the 1930s sometime, and this is just talking to residents because there are no records that indicate when it was done, but I believe sometime in the 1970s, the arch went out of the bridge and the bridge deck, beams in the bridge deck was placed. Beams are in good shape, the head walls are in good shape, but the bridge deck needs to be replaced.
Very good. Okay, what if any danger does this present to the community?
Pardon?
What if any danger does this present to the community by not fixing the deck?
Well, right now, it's probably more of an issue than anything because there is a bridge out on State Road 157 being replaced right now, so it does have a bottleneck in the area in regard to emergency services, I believe, from both Owen and Clay counties. Then, of course, school traffic.
Greg, if I'm not mistaken, you called me sometime back on this. The bridge had a horizontal crack in it. Now it has a horizontal and vertical crack in it. And you went out and checked this bridge and seen a truck go over it and literally seen the deck come up off of the bridge.
That is correct.
Is the bridge currently, the culvert currently closed right now?
It is closed.
And is it closed because of the danger it presents to the community?
It is.
Okay, Commissioners, if you wish with that factual basis to proceed, then declaring this an emergency, that would allow at that time to operate with 2 quotes. So the emergency declaration would have to be declared first.
And again, this is Beach Church.
Church Road.
It is.
Okay.
I will say that we reached out to other companies. We expected more. We expected a bid from Connexco and E3 Bridge, but I do not have those.
Okay, well, I want to make sure I got the right bridge when I ask for a motion to deem this an
Yes,
emergency.
It is not, we call it a bridge because it's but it's 19 feet, so it does not meet the standards of a bridge.
Right.
It's actually a culvert.
But we have a deck replacement.
But we haven't done a replacement for this.
I'll make a motion.
So I ask for a motion on an emergency repair and quote acceptance on Beach Church
I'll
Road.
make a motion.
Got a motion by Joel. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Seconded by Bob. All in favor? Aye.
Good. Commissioners, pursuant to Indiana Code 36.1.12.9, that once an emergency is declared, that you do not have to advertise or put out bids and quotes for public work as long as you receive 2 or more quotes from people that deal in this line or classification of work. I have 2 sealed quotes here. One is at least from the outside of the envelope, indicates it's from CLR Transportation, and the other from the outside of the envelope is Fender Excavating. From the Fender Excavating first. Okay, Commissioners, this is what follows. This is the project is a redecking of a 19-foot bridge on Beach Church Road. Contractor will be responsible for obtaining any locates needed for the project. The county highway will provide signage for road closure. Contractor will be responsible for the signs. Contractor will remove the deck bridge, sandblast the tops of the steel beams, install new bridge pan, supply and install new covered concrete deck board at a minimum of 8 feet thick. Install guardrail on both sides of the structure, reconstruct the concrete by walls at the end of the structure, placing stone or designated area for erosion. These materials will be provided by the county highway, bridge pan, used guardrails, stone, trucking for hauling off debris, and trucking for delivery. This bid is, says that once awarded, we'll have 30 days to install. Fender Excavating, located at 3740 Magnuson Road in Poland, Indiana. Their bid amount is $35,000. They do have a note. The concrete deck is figured on 4,000 pounds. 5/8 regular rebar, 1.5 on center both ways. Actual desk measures 24 by 24. But the bid amount is $35,000. You have a second quote. This is also, they use the same bid form. For contractors, this is for a decade of 19-foot bridge located on beach. This is the identical form. So the contractor, it's the same contractor requirements and the same materials provided by the county highway. Once awarded, the contractor will have 30 days to install. The company is CLR Incorporated, 2620 North Walnut in Bloomington. Bid amount, $42,580.41. The bid amount is $42,580.41. No approach work included. Prices is for a plus minus 20-foot long deck, not 19 to 25, 9/19/2022, and signed. You have one quote for $35,000 vendor. You have one quote CLR, $42,580.41.
Thank you, Jim. Gentlemen, both these companies have done a lot of work for Owen County and both have done extremely good jobs. In this particular situation, the $35,000 quote is $7,000 savings over the other one is my recommendation. Any comments, concerns?
You're exactly right.
With that being said, I ask for a motion for the approval of Fender Excavating for the Beach Church Road deck replacement. Do I hear that motion?
I'll make a motion for Fender Excavating to complete Beach Church.
I have a motion by Mr. Joel Lowell, and do I hear a second?
Second.
Seconded by Bob. All in favor? Aye.
Thank you, Commissioners. Then, lastly, by the next meeting, we should have a set of bridge plans together, and stamped by a engineer for Sand Hill Road.
Okay, looks like we've got some speed ordinances here.
We do, Commissioners, do you have numbers? There are two speed ordinances.
I've got 18 and 19, Jim, so
We
you,
use Harts Gravel will be 18,
18, okay.
and Graysville will be 19.
I want to thank Sheila for having those ready for us.
Commissioners will want to start with quality. I mean, I know there's some days there are quality days and some days are sinus days, and this is one of those. So I'm sure everyone's about irritated with that for the night, but So, Commissioners, with your permission, these are identical speed ordinances with the exception of the name of the road. So if it's okay, I'm just going to read one and I'll substitute the road. These are ordinances number 2022-18 and ordinance number 2022-19. These are ordinances establishing a maximum speed limit on Harts Gravel Road, 18, and Graysville Road, 19. Whereas the Board of Commissioners of Owen County desire to maintain its streets under its jurisdiction and control safe and secure from dangerous traffic patterns. The Board of Commissioners find this proposed ordinance to promote the health, safety, comfort, and general welfare of the citizens of Owen County. Whereas Indiana Code 921-56 allows the county to decrease the speed limit outside of an urban area to not less than 30 miles an hour after performing an engineering and traffic investigation. Whereas the Owen County Highways received complaints regarding excessive speed on Graysville Road and also Harts Gravel Road, and has conducted the required engineering and traffic investigations on both of the above named roads. Now therefore be it ordained by the Board of Commissioners of Owen County as follows. Section 1, the maximum speed limit for Harts Gravel Road shall be 35 miles an hour. Harts Gravel Road is located outside an urban district in Owen County. Section 1, the maximum speed limit for Graysville Road will be 35 miles per hour. Graysville Road is located outside an urban district in Owen County, Indiana. All the rest is identical. Section 2, the altered speed limit established by this ordinance is effective at all times when appropriate signs giving notice of the altered speed are erected on the street as required by Indiana Code 921-56C. 3, and this requires 2 publications because there is a fine. Any person violating provisions of ordinance shall be subject to a fine of $75 as set forth by Indiana Code Ordinance. By Owen County Ordinance 2018-31 as incorporated by reference. The operator shall be liable for any and all costs incurred for the prosecution and collect fines and not limited to court costs or attorney fees. Section 4, this ordinance supersedes all other ordinances. Parts of ordinances are in conflict, and provisions of any such ordinance are hereby repealed. All prior ordinances, resolution, conflict are hereby expressly repealed. Section 5, the various provisions of this ordinance are considered severable if any part or portion of this ordinance is held invalid by a court of competent jurisdiction. Such holding decision shall not affect the validity of the remaining provisions of this ordinance will remain in full force and effect. This ordinance shall be in full force and effect immediately upon its adoption and publication by law. Again, it requires 2 publications. Passed and adopted by the Board of Commissioners of Owen County, City of Indiana, regular meeting. Held on today's date of March 2022. Owen County Board of Commissioners, Gary Burke, President, Robert Curry, Vice President, Joel Lowe, Commissioner, and attested by Sheila Reeves, the Auditor. Again, those numbers are 18 for Hardscrabble and 19 for Braceville.
Thank you, Jim. And thank goodness you just had to read one, not.
Yes.
All right, gentlemen, do I hear a motion to approve ordinance number 2022-018 for Hardscrabble Road for a speed limit that is 35 miles an hour? Is that correct?
I'll make a motion to pass 2022-018 Hardscrabble 35 mile an hour.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Do I hear a motion to approve ordinance number 2022-019 for Braysville Road? And I spoke incorrectly, let's see here, yeah, 35 mile an hour.
It's 35.
35, it is, I see it now.
Was Hardscrabble 30 or 35?
They're both 35, yeah, it's on section 1.
I'll make the motion to pass 2022-019 Braysville speed limit 35 mile an hour.
Have a motion by Joel to hear a second.
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Bob Curry. All in favor? Aye. There is number 18, gentlemen.
Thank you, Commissioners. In the next Commissioners meeting, I know it was forwarded to Jim today, but we have the contract with our bridge engineers, Inspector United Consulting, that the Board of Commissioners chose to use to stay in compliance with NDOT. We will need to have that reviewed the next 2 weeks and get before the board for signature.
Yeah, we'll have Jim take a look at that agreement the next couple of weeks and have that on our next meeting agenda. Is there anything else, Greg?
No.
If you could, yeah, we've got that down on here next, Pat Connor road closure petition. We talked about the $500,000 ARPA fund plan for road. Would you please bring that together total as close to that $500,000 amount at the next commissioners meeting, and we can make that a official approval to move forward to the council? And I think you've already given us a couple of those, but I think we're waiting on a quote on another road or.
That is correct. I will have that.
We need some kind of estimate on the numbers, so
Yes.
that way we can move forward. All right, thank you very much, and probably ought to hang around for this next one if you don't care, please.
If I could, I'm not trying to NC, but the petition that I received for Mr. Connor's petition, I'm able to do the template and I can do an outline of the law, but I can't actually do the petition itself for them. The reason I say that, the one that I saw returned just simply was the template with the signatures. It didn't actually have the road, the start and the stop, and the different things that are mandatory by the requirements. Now, if there's a new one, then that could be, and maybe I haven't seen it, but the one that I saw just simply has the area to write all these in. If it would be, well, my suggestion would be if Mr. Connor and those that had signed, if they could meet with the highway superintendent, we need the starting point and we need the ending point of the road and everything on that petition, and there are some notice requirements. Then at that point, it can come to you and make a decision. But at least from the documentation that I saw, it would be insufficient to go ahead and proceed.
Okay, and I think Sheila does have that petition there, is that correct?
Is that correct, Sheila? If you look at the top, I mean, there's, yeah, I think it's probably easier to see now, like if you look at.
You had another sheet somewhere, didn't you, that had signatures on it besides this one?
No, that's a totally different request on the
okay.
highway, it's for State Ferry Road.
Okay,
I don't think Greg and them have seen it.
so you've seen this, Jim?
Yeah, so the problem being, they can use that template and it's in Word format, but they just gotta fill it out.
Okay,
Yeah. And I think if they worked with the highway, I think that would be the best process.
okay. Matt, so if you wanna get with Greg out there at his office and get the description of the road and the addresses and all those type of things, then we can get this finished up for you.
And do the petitioners need to
re-sign what Ray fills out?
They'll need to redo the petition, yes, so it's on Word format, so once that's complete filled out, then they're signifying that that's what they signed with the information on there.
I can tell you that we support this, just we gotta get the paperwork
Okay,
right.
I need you to clarify something for me, because I've worked with road closures before. I'm being asked to do something a little different usually. The residents bring all this before the board. I have inspected this once, a long time ago.
Sure, no, you're not required to do anything more, it's just, if there is if we can just clarify the start and stop point of the road, I think that's the main thing, then the residents are responsible for every, but on this particular petition, there's no identifiers on there.
Okay, well, just for the sake, I'm just gonna clarify with everybody sitting in the room right now. This is the section of Cole Ross Road from 67, to Lincoln. Is that correct? We worked on this, quite a while ago. I don't need to meet with these folks again. I can provide that information.
They just have to get their petitioners to re-sign it with that information on it, so.
Okay,
Here, do you need this copy back, sir? This is the one that you got? Okay, I'll give this back to Sheila then. Let's get a couple documents lined out, we'll get this thing wrapped up for you.
So is the paperwork coming from Ray or is it coming back?
It
It has to
can come,
come from the petition.
yeah, it has to come back from you.
Greg's gonna document what?
So, again, all it.
Start and stop point of that road.
Granted, just would be the superintendent can at least assist, here's the start part of the road, here's where we conclude. And then the rest has to come from the petitioners. They're certifying that they live on that road, and that they have an interest. So every one of those lines has to be completed with information. They would re-sign it, and then it can be presented to the commissioners.
Well, there is no one that lives on the road. I think that's.
But there's no property owner, I guess we word it that way, there has to be a property owner to request it. So if there's someone that owns property on that road, they would be the party that can
And
present.
that's the people who sign.
Correct,
Yes, so I guess what I'm asking to be clear on is if there's another document that has to be signed.
the new petition has to be signed. So they have to fill that petition, they should re-sign it, because they're signing their names that they reviewed the petition with the new information on it.
I understand that.
Right now, it doesn't have a road start and stop on there anywhere. That's what he's saying. If I can help any way I can, but, does it have a road on there anywhere, Sheila? I didn't see it.
Just use that top sheet as your guide and just do each section with your petition on that first page. And then have a signature section on the back that lists the road with going from Paul Ross to Lingle. And it has to be a property owner on that section, which I assume you know, or Ray can get you.
And then there's a mention, Brian, section 4.
Yeah, it doesn't mention.
No, what section?
I just read it again.
Request the road be closed for 5 years.
Correct.
And I understand that
Right.
it has to be on there, petition before.
Pursue that again, file a separate petition after the post.
That's a different.
Correct, by Indiana law, 5 years is the maximum they can do the first time. If the commissioners go for that, they can make a successive decision to permanently close the road, but the first time can only be.
You're welcome to look at this one, Bob.
But they can come in anytime between it's passed and that 5-year period, and come back for the permanent closure.
And just hypothetically,
Okay, so we're talking
there are
about two
other
different
animals.
This is another.
Yeah, I've not seen that one.
This one?
Yeah, I've not seen that.
It would have to be a different petition, it would have to be someone that owns the property on that road.
It's a different
It has to be
road.
Property owner on the road.
That's
Yes.
scary.
That's just, Gary, that's just asking for permit.
So there's a lady on this petition you're looking at that contacted Bob Curry, and she said that you told her to bring it in and put it in your mailbox to bring to the meeting. That's what that one is. for State Ferry Road.
Ferry Road.
Have we resolved the situation with Colross Road? We're good to move on? Okay. We'll put that in commissioner comments here towards the end.
You did, yeah, this one.
Okay, Susan, Building Department employee appointment. Let's do the employee real quick.
Okay, so I provided you, I think there was 8 applicants for the inspector's position. Mr. Smelter is wanting to retire, and so we were looking for a replacement for him. He and I conducted the interviews with the people who did respond. We did 3 interviews, and we did pick Sandra Mosier as the one we would like for the commissioners to appoint as the next building inspector.
Gentlemen, I sat in on 2 of the interviews. I wasn't able to sit in on this final interview. One of the individuals that we were interested in chose to take another position, so at that point, I told Suzanne and Rick that I would take their advice. They run the building department, do an outstanding job for us there. So their recommendation is Sandra Mosier. She has quite a background in plumbing, electrical, a lot of these areas. Rick is providing with training. He's gonna train for a couple of weeks. So how we can handle that is we can go ahead and bring her on with your acceptance and use Rick's service as other services to pay him for his training time. That way we're not paying out of payroll, so we're using contract services or other services. Any other recommendations or any other thing that you want to add to that, Suzanne?
No.
All right. Gentlemen, at that time, I'll ask for the appointment of Sandra Mosier to the building department as our new building inspector. Do I hear a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion to approve Sandra Moser.
I got a motion by Mr. Curry,
Second?
second by Mr. Lowell. All in favor? Aye. And I think that you have her scheduled to start Monday, is that correct?
If.
Unless you want to start her,
Agree tonight, I mean, she can start tomorrow.
that's entirely up. Yeah, I mean, that's fine. Get her in the office and get her set up through payroll. And then you can work out a schedule with Rick to get her trained accordingly. And Sandra, I think you were here earlier. I don't think you're here now. Welcome aboard. Just for the general public's information, this position is 28 hours from now till the beginning of the year, and then it goes to a full-time position of 35. We're fortunate enough to have a profitable building department. We have never had a full-time inspector. We're looking forward to filling this position. It'll also help Suzanne with some office details, give her a chance to take vacation, take a day off. She does not have that capability now, so it will help her, so. All right, thank you. Now we'll move on to the Planning Commission rezone for Blackwood Solutions, and I know there's several of you out there for that, so come on up. I know that we've had this on hold for a while, so we'll see where we're at here.
This is the most recent plan that was submitted to IDA.
Basically, I'm just trying to recap, and you guys correct me if I'm wrong. We were looking at a hard surface for the work area out there, either concrete, blacktop, something to that effect, trying to get some information back from the state. You guys were gonna come provide that for us, come back. I think at the present, you had like number 2 gravel down there, is that correct? So we are to resolve this issue with a hard surface underneath there.
My name is Mike Carr, I'm an attorney. Jason Higgins with Blackstone asked me to help speak on this. The paving will be done, it's about $100,000 to the paving. So the request would be paving will be done within 30 days, weather permitting, after final permit issued by IDEM. Because if they don't issue final permit, we're not operating, so don't want to do the paving unless we don't have that permit.
Right.
The most recent letter from IDEM dated September 12th, which has been submitted, I'll just read the last line in it. Except for meeting the zoning requirements, the application is complete. For the application to be considered complete according to a particular code section, you must submit documentation from the zoning authority that the proper zoning approvals have been obtained for requirements. So we're at that chicken and eggs problem, who goes first or who comes first now. We need the zoning approval before I think we're going any further. They've done everything they can, and then they'll make a final decision once we document zoning approval, but not until then. What was it, that original plan?
Yes.
Renee Lloyd with Vet Environmental just provided to us a copy of the operations plan, item requirement as part of the bidding process, addresses, I think, most if not all of the, what I call the external impacts that were of concern. You know, noise issues to be controlled in part by restricted operations to normal business hours. It's not a early morning, late night operation, not permitted for that.
8 to 5, that type of thing is what we're looking at.
Normal, that'd be, 8 to 5 is presumptive normal business operations. Odor was a question. This is I dislike the term waste processing because that conjures all sorts of thoughts and trash and garbage and odors. This is wood materials, telephone poles, and other untreated wood materials that get processed for reuse. It's not a human waste, a garbage transfer station or anything of that sort. So odor is not the issue. Concerns have been expressed about traffic. I know the zoning there now is commercial, which is much more of a traffic generator. This uses a few trucks a day to get in there, bringing the materials that are going to be processed and then eventually be hauled away. The question of concern of fire and protections. There's a planned stockpiling and stacking of the materials to be processed. We're limited on size. A requirement or a site plan would show a separation space between those to allow access through there for fire fighting if necessary. So the stockpiling of the dry materials is done with that issue in mind of being access to and control in the event there should be a fire. Dust with the paving will pretty much becomes a non-issue, at least from a stone limestone dust migration issue. The equipment, this is a shredding, not a grinding process, which is a different generator of dust, and that is a much different dust source and quantity of dust that would be involved in that. So we believe that with the operations plan that IDEM has to review and approve, and they do require it in any event, it addresses what we believe to be the external impact concerns that would allow this to be approved. Ask for your approval of zoning.
I think our biggest concern last time, and it had been brought up with the Chriso situation the county had many, many years ago up just north of Gosport, was a major Chriso cleanup. We as Owen County citizens don't want to have to deal with that again. So that was part of the concern with the stone underneath of it. Then we come back and talked about the hard surface. Is there some type of retention of any rainwater off of this parking lot? Because now we're talking about working on a hard surface and water's gonna flow. Norm is here from the Planning Commission. I don't know if you guys have asked these questions. I'm curious because I don't want to get into leaching situations, and I know that we've talked about, or your folks have said it's not a contaminant, soil contaminant, but yet we've had a cleanup here before, so it's hard for us not to understand that there's not a cleanup issue. So.
Let me speak.
Yeah, Norm, go ahead.
So, a couple of things. Number one, I have a concern, live and learn. So when you brought your petition, there was a rather sizable document that I received. Went ahead and moved forward with this, understanding that IDEM had already gave you the right to operate it, and you were already operating. So at that point, much like when we run into quarries, the county's hands are kind of tied at that point. So we move forward, I read into your document, and then I read hard service, there was none. And then, like Gary said, once we make this hard service as a requirement to get your, if we pass your zoning and now we have a hard service, now where does groundwater go? The second part of that question is, who in Owen County gets access to that information on the impact of the leaching, the water, what keeps it out of the waterways up there. I know, Department Creek is close by. So you said you would sample these and you would keep it below the IDEM recommendations for the contaminants getting into the waterways. Is there anyone in Owen County that gets this information so that we have it on file, so that if someone sitting here wants to see it, who gets that information? Where is that stored? I don't want them to have to come to you to get it. I would like somebody in county, would that be the health department?
That would be John Reeves, I'm
Okay.
assuming, yes.
So I think we
He
need that.
oversees our landfill now, and he would do the same with this situation.
So I mean, to me, we have to have that.
So part of the, what we discussed at the previous meetings was that the operations plan that we initially submitted was, it said that there will be, surfacing in the facility. IDEM came back and said, clarify what that will be. We proposed the number 2 gravel, and then we decided we're just gonna pave it. So the concern about potential leaching, we've given toxicity characteristic leaching procedure documentation that Blackwood does every year to IDEM for their review in this process. So that is basically a test where you take the material and simulate stormwater going through it, and what the impact is on the discharge. And for the years that they've been in operation, it's been far below the hazardous waste characteristic levels. So that's gonna continue.
Are there test results out there to prove that to us?
Yes, and that's been submitted to IDEM, and that's all
But
available.
it's been submitted to IDEM, but it's not been submitted to our county health department, is that correct?
I believe with the last, during the last meeting that was requested, and we submitted the toxicity characteristic leachate
Norm,
procedure
do you remember that?
to the commissioners and to the health
It's been a
department.
while, but I'm assuming.
Okay.
we
They were
have
supposed to send you a copy
some
and John a copy.
follow-up to that I would have.
I don't know that I've seen that, that's why I'm asking, I haven't, and you're telling me that the health department you don't think has received it as well.
It was requested that both you and the health department get copies.
It was sent via email, if that was
I can go back and check, but I don't remember seeing it.
following I believe last time we were here was March 7. So it would have been a day or two.
So while we're waiting, and I just got questions, while we're waiting on IDEM to do a water test, how much is leaching off of the lot or into the ground before we get that test back from the state? I mean, do they test it weekly? Do they test it monthly? Do they test it once a year?
So it's an independent laboratory that tests it and then submits the results back to Blackwood. And that, as part of the operations plan, that's gonna be submitted to IDEM every year.
So once a year.
Additionally- And that's on the actual materials, so that's they're taking a sample of the stored materials, simulating what could leach out of it, and reporting those results. And to date, they've all been below the hazardous waste characteristic level. Additionally, we'll be doing stormwater sampling there. They've been approved, by the.
Who's gonna do the sampling? IDEM?
So IDEM has, the Office of Land Quality has a requirement to have a stormwater permit under the National Pollutant Discharge Elimination System program. And so any stormwater that's exposed to any industrial process is subject to this permit, so Blackwood.
So we don't have a leaching pond or a holding pond or anything like that for this, at this time. And I'm gonna be quiet because Joel's got some questions and I'm gonna let him ask whatever. This isn't open for discussion in the public at this time.
My question would be, as I read through here, you're processing power poles. Okay. Are you processing, old railroad ties as well?
Not at this time, I might have to defer to.
Occasionally, it's been a few years.
Okay, so your material does change and the quantity of creosote in these materials changes from product to product. Would that be?
Only difference in a creosote pole and a creosote tie is one's hardwood, one's softwood.
Okay, but,
Constituents are the same.
but, yeah, okay.
And I'll address the TCLP testing. I've done nothing but recycle creosote my whole career.
Okay,
So understand the great concern. 80 feet from this courthouse, there's a railroad tie every 20 inches.
And in most county residents, they have a creosote pole. The reason that's okay is that creosote doesn't have a leaching problem. And so you can sample, I've seen thousands of TCLP tests done on waste creosote materials, never seen one hazardous level. You can take a brand new railroad tie, it won't test hazardous. That's why you can use creosote material over bridges in the state of Indiana and the state of California for that matter. You can use the material all over the place because it doesn't represent a leaching problem. That's the reason creosote gets used and not listed on other chemicals. There are other chemicals that you have wood preservatives that have leaching problems.
So how did we get a cleanup out here on 67?
So raw creosote is drastically different than creosote retained in used wood.
Yeah.
Okay, so they were processing ties.
Yeah, it's a concentration issue. You have raw creosote chemical. The problem, I'm not familiar with the situation, but most treating plants have the same thing where poor housekeeping got raw creosote on it. Much different.
Just trying to get all the answers we can,
Yeah,
here, that's all.
understand.
Gary, I just got one question for him. Has the blacktopping been done underneath these storage units?
No,
No? So, in other words, what it's saying here, except for meeting, you've done everything except for meeting the zoning requirements. So if you not got that underneath there, that's our zoning requirements, as far as I'm concerned, it stops right here. We're not gonna go on until that is blacktop, till you meet that requirement first.
the concern is that, so we've got $100,000 worth of paving. We're operating under an agreed order by IDEM, so we're currently legal. Until we go through the rest of the process, we can't move on with IDEM until we get the zoning. So we're not going to spend $100,000 on paving, only be denied for some other reason and have to shut down. So we're operating legally now without paving. We can give you whatever assurance you need that we will pay when it's all approved.
Yeah, part of the
Jim?
operations plan is
Yeah, let me
commitment.
ask Jim a question. What can we do? Can we, as far as make sure they do the blacktopping later on down there if we do this zoning?
Well, those council disagrees, but I believe that on the zoning requirements, you could have recommended contingencies prior to the approval. So the recommendation would be this must be done. Now, my understanding of this is somewhat different, but the plan commission had requested that a fence be put up. I believe that fence was in fact, this would be soon. But at the same time, I think, not to speak for either party, but they're talking about a substantial $100,000, and you want that in there. But that could be one of the contingencies with the expectation. You could even make it to the point that the zoning would be revoked if the asphalt was not put in.
Within a period of time.
Yes.
Totally fine.
There's gotta be a liability here.
Yeah.
And, there's gotta be a liability situation here, Gary, that says, if it's not conducted properly, that we have to have the ability. I understand what he's saying.
I do too.
We all get it.
Sure.
He ain't gonna go spend $100,000 or whatever, we're gonna turn around and go, you know what, you didn't do this, or you didn't put flower pots in the corner of your office building. So,
I would like to
Like
see
Jim
the
said, there
email
has to
that you
be.
had spoken of, and Mr. Reeves have as well. So we can go over those documents before we move forward. And I feel like John being in our health department and overseeing our landfill for as many years as that he has, and I'm hearing that he hasn't seen this for whatever reason.
Yeah,
If we could have the opportunity.
April 1st.
Okay, that's been some time back. If you want to re-forward it to both of us, I don't know if you have John's email.
I do, yeah.
I know that we.
I'll throw out another issue that limits liability. Already, months ago, we submitted a bond. IDM did an estimate on if things went awry, what could it cost to clean up, and we had to provide a bond with that fund, so that money is sitting there.
Well,
Do we have a copy of that as county officials
It's
or?
within all the permitting stuff.
you know,
Norm, have you seen that through the planning commission?
The bond,
Yeah,
no, I don't.
I'm trying to cover all bases here, and Victor, I'm gonna let you speak here in just a minute, it is a public hearing.
Thank you.
So I'm trying to get as much information as we can out here to the public, and go ahead, Norm.
My question, was that in the document you gave us that night, the bond? The information about the bond, or did that come later when we?
Right, Renee would know.
So that was in the May 9th revision of our operations plan. So
This past May or a year ago?
this past May. So it probably would have been done after that,
Okay,
January.
so I
because we met
haven't
in
seen it yet, because
January.
we had you back a long.
So these documents have all been submitted to IDEM through the permitting process, and that's all public information. We can forward that.
Right, and I get that, but you see our problem here, you're asking us as a county to make decisions based on something IDEM has, not that we have. Just like what John Reeves doesn't have. And I know you say you've sent it, and I'm not gonna dispute that, but we have to have that before we can move forward with it. I kind of feel the same way that I felt when I got the document that night and said, here, make a decision. And I read that night, not 3 chapters in, and here's hard surface
A commitment to
requirement
IDEM.
that I've already said, okay, we'll make a recommendation to the commissioners, and then I find out you haven't even followed what you said you were going to do.
That's
was
not
a
true, it's
commitment.
required after we get operational, it wasn't required today.
Yeah,
Okay,
we
and I
didn't
get
ever
that,
say that there was
but if you
blacktop.
give me a document that says blacktop's supposed to be there, it's not there, I've already made a decision on it, which was a mistake on my part, you see where that puts me.
Yes, and our understanding, especially based on the last meeting, was that what the commissioners needed was to show that IDEM had approved every other part of our plan except for the zoning requirements.
But
And there
now we
was-
find out that there was a bond that was approved that we haven't seen, so we know that there's some kind of cleanup issue if there's a problem. First I've heard of that.
It's required for any solid waste.
It very well may be, but we're not experts with IDEM, okay? I wish I was, then I could answer these questions, no problem. So I think that we would feel more comfortable with a couple more of these documents. We're not trying to run you out of business. I'm all for growth in Owen County. Just want to make sure that it's done properly, legally. Victor, I'm going to let you speak now.
Thank you. A lot of what you said is just not true. The address on this property is 2333 State Road 43. This is a known area of underground karst, rivers, and streams. So it's an extremely vulnerable area, and it drains down to McCormick's Creek. I have people who have posted that it stinks of creosote, the property. They are currently zoned commercial, and they cannot continue to do business under commercial. They have to have heavy industrial. But you can't just hand them heavy industrial because they want it. I mean, that isn't a proper reason. IDEM in their letter states, please note this letter is not a permit decision. She just said that they were happy with them. That's not true. It says a decision will be made once the application is complete. That is, that they have a zone change from commercial to industrial. So IDEM is not happy with this. IDEM is saying, we don't move forward unless the county wants to change your zoning.
Correct.
From commercial to industrial. When this became before you on April 4th, there was a lot of opposition. I'm sure you remember it well. Unfortunately, I'm unable to get the live stream of that meeting, but it was a pretty and you allowed comment at a morning meeting.
Public hearing.
Yes, well, it was just a tremendous amount of opposition and different people spoke. It was tabled for 90 days.
Correct.
If you recall, and it was basically frozen, it was stopped. They had opportunities to come back, which they ignored. So, you know, they're here today. But if this is approved, the potential for a calamity is right there. There's really no reason to go from commercial to industrial, just so that they can continue shredding utility poles and possibly contaminating groundwater in that whole area where you're planning on running a road from the Hoosier Energy all the way across to McCormick's Creek with homes on either side. This is just insane to give them the go-ahead.
And you're talking about across the road from where this is at on that particular road.
Yeah.
Yes, I know.
And it's known, there are, go ahead.
Well, I was actually gonna ask, and I don't know if this is even an appropriate question for Jim, but I'm gonna ask, if this is zone commercial heavy, as you referred to, I believe.
No, commercial, it would go to heavy industrial.
Yeah, heavy industrial is the governing body of this facility. At what point, because I'll tell you what, here's the thing. Owen County, we cannot withstand any liability in this. Not 1 cent. I love bringing business, bringing commerce, bringing work to Owen County. But the question here is, who is going to take care of this as far as monitoring it, despite when or if it's ever approved? At what point does the state of Indiana become a monitoring for this? Is it our responsibility to monitor it because we're in Owen County, because it's our county, or does IDEM step in at that point and say, you know what? We take care of it at this point.
And
it's a simple question. And again,
Jim, can you answer that for Joe?
No, not top of my head.
okay, well, and I think it's a logical question. I don't want to run business away. I'm not doing that. But somebody is going to ask the questions later. Who's monitoring this place? Who's testing this place? Who's the governing authority over this once it's in place?
And they have not been forthright. When they came before the planning commission, they told the planning commission that everything's copacetic. Everything's good. IDEM is happy, and our records are open public records. And it wasn't true. And Norm got a real awakening when IDEM stepped in and stopped them. And IDEM has not given them any go-ahead other than we aren't going to make a decision on your permit unless you get the change from commercial to industrial.
And that's why we're here this evening, and I totally understand that.
Thank you.
Any other comment from the public?
My name is Pam Rogers, and I have already submitted a written comment, but I briefly would like to share with you, in case you are not aware of what the Owen County ordinance is for heavy zoning. It's very important that we all understand that what you have a decision to make tonight is not about Blackwood, who is the leasee. It is about rezoning this property to a heavy industrial status. What does that mean? That means once this is zoned heavy industrial, this property, they could sell their business tomorrow. And by this ordinance, you are allowed to have an arsenal, a concrete plant, a petroleum refinery. You may sell ore, you may store gasoline. It can be used as a sanitary landfill. You can burn dead animals, manufacture acid, alcohol, explosives, gasolines, and a variety of things. So really, the matter today is not about the permit approval of a leasee. What you've heard today from the environmental aspect is about the users of the property, not the owners of the property. And what is before the board is, do we want to rezone this? In the Owen County ordinance and in the comprehensive plan that's in act right now says they do not encourage a heavy industrial zoning next to commercial or industrial. That is in the present comprehensive plan. Additionally to this, notice has not been given appropriately to the community. The commissioners in the December 30th, 21st letter regarding a 125-22 meeting, it's identified that properties, 2 properties away have to be notified, or 1/8 of a mile. This has not occurred yet. Much of the information you've heard is slightly correct, but mostly wrong. Now, these documents by IDEM are all public documents. They are easily accessible. And as you go through the about 11 inches of documents that covers this, a reference was made to the sampling. The sampling sites done at this location were done approximately 2 years ago. There were 2 different samples. That tells me this has been in operation for at least 2 years. You refer to a conditional permit by IDEM. I can find no conditional permit that you've ever been issued. You're operating under an umbrella right now until this gets clarified. The company has changed names. Paperwork is submitted under the term of incorporated, under a variety of nomenclature. When you go to the state, this company has changed their name and it has moved it from incorporated to an LLC. This is a liability concern for the county. And if you look at what is considered to be the underwriting, what I believe he's referring to as the bond, this is an agreement, there's a trust set up with a banking entity that's not correctly executed. This information has been resubmitted to IDEM last night. It'll take them a few days to get it resolved on that. But I ask the commissioners to please consider that before you is not about the company that's going to lease this property. What before you is, do we really want to put another jeopardy into this county, into identified heavy industrial living? You made a very good point, sir. Who oversees that? Who is the policing authority? What do you do when there's a problem? We already are dealing with Superfund sites, the divvy. We don't have the resources to do what a lot of big counties do. So I ask you to please take that into consideration in addition to the written submission and letters that I gave you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Sir?
Just a couple of comments. I honestly did not follow all of Ms. Rogers' statements, but the question about overseeing who's responsible, you as a county have no regulation on this. This is an IDEM permit. It will be IDEM's responsibility to see that. The stormwater control permit is actually only a 5-year issue. Anyway, it has to be renewed because they do come back and look again. Is there a time lag between a testing and some further testing? Yes, it's not a daily event, but the regulatory standards are created by IDEM and by at state level, not at county level. So it's not yours to monitor, to oversee, to have access to the records. If you'd like to see those, I know no reason why they're not. They become public records when they're filed by IDEM. So there's an issue of you'd like your health department or somebody kept informed as testing and results come in. I don't know of any reason why that would be a problem.
Well, Mr. Carmen, That, absolutely, because we're involved in a landfill that's been shut down for 20 years and we have 10 years to go, and IDEM comes down. I've been out there personally, you know, dealing with those inspections. So we need to make sure that we're on top of this, and I feel it's kind of the same situation. Yes, IDEM is in control of that, but it goes through Owen County.
But I did learn some lessons years ago, which is why there's now a bond requirement. That wasn't always true. You know, this estimated possible cleanup cost, you're looking at the area and excavation and disposal of soils in a controlled landfill. Where can they go?
Is that a bond agreement with the state of Indiana?
We had to issue that to IDEM.
Yeah.
So, Mike, again, going back to that, I've not seen that. These gentlemen have not seen that. I think at this point, we're missing a couple of links here that we need, and that would be one of them, as well as the email that you spoke of, and John and I, you apparently just sent it to me or whatever, but John and I need to sit down and look at that. So I'm gonna make a recommendation that we table for 30 more days till we look at these documents. So we have an educated information in front of us. 30 days, we'll come back and rediscuss this.
And I would like also just to say that the initial meeting when we came in January to the zoning commission, you know, that environmental is not in the business of saying things are approved when they're not. We had submitted an application, we were working with IDEM through the permitting process at that time. And it's very normal, especially with a new permit, a newly permitted facility, to have back and forth with the agency to decide what works best for this site and what fits into IDEM's requirements. It's very normal to have back and forth, and so they issued formal requests for additional information. We provided that additional information along with a revised operations plan. They asked for a couple more things, we submitted those things, and it's just, the end result is this letter stating that, okay, everything else has been clarified, and yes, no, of course, it's not a permit decision.
That's not what it says.
It's not a permit decision, it's not an approval, but it's following a series of.
But with the cleanup issue that we've had in the past, now that we've had a discussion of the bond, I think that that's important for this county to view that, to make sure that we have that backup plan if moving forward. And I'm not saying that we have or we haven't, but that is definitely gonna be a comfort zone for us.
Because that's a commitment that the owner of the property is responsible. It's not going to be the county's responsibility.
No, but at least we know that somebody's making that commitment and it's not gonna get stuck back on the county. We don't have those documents in front of us.
Can you be specific? We may end up doing more, but could you be specific?
He says he has a bond agreement with the state of Indiana for the cleanup of the project.
I've got that.
Okay.
Something else specific?
There was an email that she was talking about that she sent out back in April, and I apologize, I get a ton of emails, I may have skipped it, missed it, whatever. The health department needs to see that document as well.
And that's specifically the TCLP procedure.
Whatever it is, just send it to us so we can review that. Our health department needs to be involved. Work good with John. Like I said, I've dealt with the landfill situation. Norm, go ahead, and then I'm gonna let the county attorney speak to make sure that we're heading in the right direction.
One other thing that I would like to see is any documentation they have on the residuals and the ongoing buildup, what that looks like 10 years down the road, if they operate that long. Does that change the numbers? Does that change the level that we're testing on? Does that change how it looks to us, what the bond is required, if it would need to go up because it has changed? If there's any kind of documentation on that, I would at least like to have some access to that at the county level.
And I understand what you're saying, Norm, but this year's testing is not gonna be the same as it is 10 years from now because we have a buildup of product. Right.
And that information may not be available, I don't know.
I'm gonna get with the attorney real quick and then I'll get back to you. Jim, is there anything else that we need to discuss here or bring up?
Well, at this particular point, maybe I must have, is there an actual motion on the floor?
I put one on the table to table it.
Okay.
I have not asked for a
Okay,
second.
so the only thing I would ask, it has nothing to do substantive, is just can we firm the date when we say 30 days, because we need some notice, and we actually, from the building department, they take the notice statute and they go way beyond that. So if we could just have the actual date is the only question I have. Date and time.
That would be October the 17th.
October the 17th, is that a?
That is a Monday, that's an evening meeting.
Okay, that's all
I don't want to discuss this in a morning meeting with the employees to get back to work and that kind of stuff. But we've got some documents here that need to be looked at before we move forward. Guys, again, since I'm running a meeting, I do a lot of talking.
No, Victor, a minute. I want to say something to you. I want to make a statement to you, if I may. 43, that section of 43, has already somewhat commercial. It's got a stone mill, it's got a mulch plant, things. I don't have to agree or disagree with everything being said here tonight, but we cannot stop progress, if at all applicable, within this county. We can't do it. But every one of the considerations, I'll let you know, I've heard tonight. I heard Victor, I've heard you, but there's things that we cannot turn our head to. So, I don't, it's already industrial. They're already mulch piles and grinding stone.
I just have a quick question for her. Can you please tell me now, when did you apply initially for an IDM permit?
It was October 2021.
And when did the operation start? Approximately?
Trying to engage with this.
I don't know the exact date, but it was.
Did you say 2 years ago?
Do I need to engage in this conversation?
You don't have to engage in any conversation if you choose not to. That's entirely up to you.
The difficulty is there's an interpretations and disagreement with item initially on whether this was regulated under the current regulations, whether it fit the definition. That was finally agreed by, okay, we'll just apply for your permit here. So they were operating under the belief that it was not required to have this waste processing permit, but after some work with IDM, they agreed to apply for it. So that's why it was in operation before the permit was filed.
And that's what I was aware of or thought that I had been told. So there's been a few things that's happened that maybe shouldn't have happened, and there's some questions here. That's why we're here, okay? We're trying to figure this out. And again, I think within those 30 days, if those documents are presented to where they can be reviewed through our council, the health department, the general public, and we'll move forward. Do I hear a second on my motion to table this for 30 days until October 17th?
I'll second that.
I have a motion by myself, a second by Bob to table. Do I,
All in favor?
all in favor?
Aye.
I just want to make sure that there's no other conversation.
No.
We'll table for 30 days if you'll get that information to us as soon as possible.
Yes, of course.
And anything that you send us, please attach the county attorney to via his email. And we thank you very much.
Publish a legal notice.
Yes.
The rezone, okay.
And audience, we thank you for your participation. Ernie Default.
So to be clear, the three of you, John Reeves,
County attorney, yes.
I don't have to.
That's fine.
I can forward it to him.
Yeah.
Long time sitting, guys.
Let me make myself a note of that right now, Norm. All right, Ernie.
Good
How are
evening,
you?
gentlemen. I understand, my name is Ernie Default, for those that probably are online, if there is. I come to you this evening, gentlemen, to make reference to the Cunard Community Center. It's out on State Route 42, Kunat Cataract Road is the junction. It's in Jackson Township, for those that need to know. And it's in the northern part of the county, which is on the other side of 67, which puts us into the borrowed mule or the stepsister or whatever you want to call us up there. I live in Jennings Township, one of the 3 townships that the service center cares for. Kunat building was constructed in the early 1990s, used as a school. And at such a time in 1965, there was a consolidation of school districts, which the Kunat school went to the Cloverdale School District. At that time, the building had been vacated as a schoolhouse and was permitted to be used as a community center for those that live in those 3 townships. At the time that I became involved with it, only as a social situation, Reese Nichols was the director at that time, and my neighbor and myself would go up on Saturday mornings to have breakfast. They served breakfast for Saturday mornings for the community to come in and enjoy. During that time period, became need of a commercial septic system because they were pumping the grease from the cooking units down into the original septic system, which clogged it up and ruined it. The LP gas power generator also needed some servicing. So working with Reese Nichols to find and raise funds for these projects, we made a request to the locals for donations from Jackson, Jennings Township, and the residents, along with a grant program, which we obtained. Got the septic system in a commercial state, got a raise station, and got it to function for the size of the building it was promoted to take care of. In May of 2014, Don Vandemore Jr. Asked me to take his place on the Kunat Community Center's Board of Directors as his replacement. At the time I did. I served from May 2014 till January of 2016. A natural disaster makes it necessary for an emergency shelter for the Kunat area residents to serve the northern townships of Jackson, Jennings, and Taylor. During the period directly after I left the Board of Directors, we were able to get Jack White of Homeland Security to work with the Community Center and Director to organize a natural disaster program. Along with that, the Red Cross showed up on that meeting, and they promised that they were going to bring in a 40-foot trailer that would take care of the emergency supplies for a natural disaster, floods, hurricanes, which we don't get many of, tornadoes. I asked that the Owen County Commissioners look into saving Kunat Community Center Incorporated as a natural disaster emergency center and work with the community services that are not able to be functioning in the area right now.
Ernie, was there a food bank that worked out of that as well?
There was at the time. It was separate from.
And it's desperately needed up there, I'm aware
There's
of.
definitely a need, and there's been a lot of requests for that to come back. In my estimation, and my opinion, there's an element in the county to close and demolish this structure. Now, that's all I can say about that. I have a very strong feeling that that's what the function is going to be. The Owen County Commissioners are guardians of emergency shelters, whether you like it or not. That is a responsibility. we have one up in the northern part of the county, and it's not being properly used. In fact, right now, couldn't function as that.
Ernie, can I stop you for just a second?
Yes.
And I'm agreeing with everything you said, absolutely. Didn't this come to court over this particular building?
I can't answer that.
I think it did.
I can't answer because I don't know all the facts.
I'm sorry,
There is a trial on the 26th.
but I think Bob had already attended an early hearing on this. So there has been proceedings prior to what you're talking about.
Are you willing to speak on that?
Yes.
Darren?
Yeah, basically in that letter I gave you from you, I tried to summarize in 3 paragraphs, something that's been going on since October of last year, okay?
And Bob and I have been involved in this since, I don't know
The deal
when.
about it, and I don't care about what people say, the deal about it is for some reason, we don't know why, I don't know why, I've asked. The township trustee up there, Mrs. Harris, she has suddenly decided for some reason that she's gonna sue the board of directors and the officers, which some of them are sitting here, right? And she owns the building and she can dispose of it as she feels fit to do. It's at her pleasure. And so she took us to court and sued us, and we're in court now, okay, right? Trying to defend the community, right, and the board of directors and the officers, so that she does not have the legal right to dispose of the building and the grounds at her pleasure.
My question is, and this has been my question from way back when I got involved, I've had people call me, I've sent them up your way to get involved. Again, I'm all on your side here, folks. I live up in that area of the county as well. What I don't understand is, how does our trustee become owner of this building?
That's the question.
Nobody can answer that for me.
Check this out. Where does she get the money to pay for those lawyer fees to sue us?
Exactly.
If she's taking public, if she's taking public money, it should be going to the, by the way, I wanna make a quick comment here. I checked the state board of accounts to find out how many families she helped last year, because you have to list how many families she helped. She only helped 4 counties out of
4 families.
$4,000 that she used for a whole year.
Yeah, there's 400 up there that we could help.
Well, there's over 800 some people.
I'm just saying, we can help.
It angers me and it upsets me to have somebody just come up and just say, oh, by the way, I own the property, I own the land, and I can sell it and get rid of it, transfer, do anything I want.
And I push this stuff to the limit because I want to know who has the authority over the trustees. I call the county attorney, the state does, not the commissioners. We do not have control over trustees. Frustrating, very frustrating because of this type of situation.
My question is, who owns it?
That's a good
It
question.
has to be debated as well.
Whose name is on the deed?
Well, we can't find a deed, it's not a deed per se, it's a transfer deal.
This was originally owned by Cloverdale School System.
That's correct.
Okay.
And it was deemed the state. Cloverdale sent the state, and it's filed in the state, I forget now where the records are and stuff, that it's ruled by a board up there. The state has that authority. And now then, from there, it's just,
Okay, I can answer a lot of that.
okay, please.
Help us any way you
Wait a
can.
minute, excuse me a minute. I'd like to introduce, or have them introduce themselves. 4 members of the 7-member board. If you'd stand and introduce yourself, I guess we lost one.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm Joyce Darling Hayes, I'm the president.
I'm Jason Trout, I'm the vice president.
I'm Tara Bachman, I'm secretary.
Okay.
Aaron Burnett, one of the board members.
And Ernie, I'm assuming that you were not back on the
He is,
board.
no, he's a
I'm not
special
back on the
advisor.
board.
He does counseling.
So back
Just
to
let
my,
these people go because they live closest to the problem. And
I've been up there several times in the last several months, checking that building out, seeing what's going on with it to make sure that there's nothing going on in there that shouldn't be. I know that I don't have the authority necessarily to do anything about it, but I'm on your side. Again, I go up there and I check it out.
But make a really good point for you guys before, I don't want to interrupt, I want to make sure this is out there in public. This woman right here, this president, right, she's already dumped in, now think about this, she's already dumped in around $4,000 of her own money to pay for the heat, the lights, the insurance, the maintenance, and all the other work, and all the locks.
So you do have access to the building.
Oh, yeah, we've got new locks on everything, but.
But I've been paying the bills just because there's,
Right.
whenever this all started, everything for donations
Oh, yeah.
had ended at this point. Our bank accounts are frozen. the ones that we had over this lawsuit. And so there's no funds available, but we have to have a building for the emergency disaster shelter. So.
Jim, where does that fall in our authority? Could you check into that, or do you know?
No, I'll have to check in, just, no,
If that somehow oversees the trustee, we'll jump all over that. I think that that's the right thing to do.
Well, certainly, but the question is too, is if it's in litigation, where can we go with it currently?
Right.
Okay.
If this is all in litigation, we gotta be real careful, and that's what Jim.
I think part of the problem is the judge isn't sure what's happening with this. It's very confusing.
Well,
it is very
The two different
confusing.
boards, the community center is one, the pantry was another, trying to work together. So I think just not understanding the.
But I can try to make light of everything for you the best I can, because I have done nothing but dug up archives ever since this guy started. So I'm pretty much.
We got stack of papers, that thing that shows that
So
we've got
what's
the lease
happened?
on the property, right?
Well,
What happened is, when the first deed was deeded out to Forrest Herbert, which was a trustee back in the day, all right? And that was just for the original 2 acres, all right? So, a school corporation cannot hold title to property, as you well know. It has to be a building corporation, or, you know, like it's Cloverdale's community building corporation that would actually hold the deeds and the property titles, okay? So, I cannot understand how this was that this deed, this 99-year lease that the people went into in 1965 with the school corporation, and somebody as a bit of an attorney as Charles Edwards, which was down here, he was an attorney, would not know that somebody could own this building that wasn't being able to own the building, okay? So you got this, why a 99-year lease to whatever they should be owned by the people in Jackson Township, okay? I have the archives from the first board of directors meetings for the school corporation, the community school corporation, which was Jackson, Taylor, Jennings, and Cloverdale Township that went together, and that was in 1956, all right? They went together to form Cloverdale Community School Systems. They have 4 guaranteed seats on their board for each one for those townships. They have 3 other positions on the school board that's available to anybody else. So it's quite a large school, school system. And so in 1964 and 65 was the last year that they had school out here at Cunot. And at that time, they decided they would sell the Cataract School and the Quincy School. And that they would go into this 99-year lease with the citizens of Jackson Township to open that up for a community center. Now, the first formidable years that they didn't have a lot going on with the building because there was not electricity, power, septic, there was no water, there was nothing, it was just a building, it was 2 little skill buildings. Okay, so on the deed, it has that it was deeded out to Forrest Herbert or his successors for the 2 acres. Now, whenever they did that consolidation, which that happened throughout the state of Indiana with, a lot of the small schools and stuff, all consolidated into a larger school system. When they did that, they had agreed to build these buildings to take in the other students from the areas, right? So they had to sell bonds out for that. So what happened was that school corporation ended up having a building corporation, because you had to have somebody to own title to that. And that title, whenever you consolidate, everything went into the kitty, and Cloverdale Bank was the one that was the depository for the school systems. Whenever they held those bonds, it got all thrown into that bank up there, the bonds, everything, whenever it's paid off, all of that information was destroyed. Okay, so nowhere in anything from the archives, anything that I have found from the newspaper articles, has it ever even mentioned anything about the trustees whatsoever, except for to say that for the first year, whenever they first moved in and started the school systems, that they would allow the trustees of the Jackson Township and the other townships to elect or hire their teachers for the first year. After that, everything, it says everything else, it goes into the school board. And so there's no reason for her to even think, except for this one little document. She's got, in this court thing, she's got one document, that old deed for the ground itself. And we have tons of everything, you know, to produce, showing that this was granted over, even in newspaper articles from the consolidation itself, saying that we gave that school, ours, to the citizens of Jackson Township to open up that community center. Charles Edwards was also an attorney that had a title and abstract company. Then I understood why he did this and why it ended up the way he did it. Cloverdale's Community School Board Building Corporation would have held that title, okay? And so unfortunately, back in the day, they would always hold title to buildings, you know, like a car title and stuff like that, would have been like a deed. And since the school corporation couldn't hold the title for the property itself, they held just the business of the school corporation. There is nothing else, because everything back then was on a handshake and faith, you know?
Do you guys have legal representation?
Yes.
I do. I think you better end your story so we can move on to it.
So, but we're just like,
So I've heard that she supposedly holds the title to this property. And I'm just telling you what I've heard, okay? And I'm sure you've probably heard the same thing. But I'm also been told then she's leased it to someone else for this 99 years.
Oh, really?
no,
I have heard that.
Right, she has nothing in the lease. The lease is between Cloverdale's community school systems and the Jackson Township, the original Jackson Township government.
I've got some documents somewhere and I'll have to dig them up.
After the
Got
lease.
a couple of people's names that it's supposedly leased to.
Oh, well, that would be very.
Let me go back and do some research because this is something that's been going on for a while.
But that
The
is,
community is still suffering without.
that's the whole point. It's
Absolutely.
And I can't continue to pay these bills, you know, out of my own pocket like this. I don't feel
So I
like it's
guess,
my responsibility.
long story short is, what is it that we can try to help you do? Or
Save our center, help us save our center.
if the attorney can find through the state that we are in charge of disaster buildings, or a safe house shelter,
If you lose this
trust me.
building, if you lose this building in the county, you will find a location for these people to share. Your responsibility for an emergency shelter in the northern part of the county. There's a few people up there that'll harass you till they get it.
Well,
It may not be that building,
right?
We'll find something.
The crime rate and stuff, if this building is not there, we have through the past have helped so many people and still do. We are starting our own food pantry, even though we're not up and running very well at this point. We started that and we're off into another counties and stuff like that, doing food distribution with cleaners. Because we want to keep giving back to this community, but we need your help. That's just it, we need help. We can't do this on our own.
Thank you, appreciate it. Appreciate you.
But the township trustee using our taxpayer money to sue the people that live up there, that's just
Oh, it's wrong.
wrong.
Yeah, I agree.
We've already had those in the county.
Yeah.
So we're paying
One commission
twice.
suing another.
We're paying to sue ourselves and we're paying.
Folks, I do support all of you, and Bob and I have been involved in this for a while. It's just like our hands are tied because of litigation. I know that Bob did go to that initial hearing and basically it just got thrown out.
Right, another one Monday.
So hopefully you guys are coming back with a strong fight.
Hope so.
We'll support you any way we can.
Absolutely.
And we'll absolutely have the attorney look into the legality of the commissioner's authority over a shelter. If we've got that authority,
But we
we'll
just something
enforce it.
maybe you have some authority over the trustee there, so.
That we do not, I've checked into it. I don't understand why,
It's a good way you're approaching it.
Yes, yeah, we appreciate that.
do whatever we can for you.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Appreciate your time.
Thank you, guys. Let me find my agenda because I'm lost in the shuffle here.
We're always lost.
Are you all aware that the State Board of Accounts moved township funding to Cass Township, Clay County?
Yeah, again. Good seeing you, Mayor.
We're up for elected officials and department heads. Nothing.
Come on, Susan, you must have something.
You got 2 minutes of public comment, if anybody's got anything. Okay,
Yeah, I do. 2 minutes.
2 minutes.
Joel,
Yes, sir.
have you received a copy of the comprehensive plan for 2022?
I have a copy.
Have you read part of it? Oh, that isn't a copy.
I've got an actual copy for him.
That thing is that thick, Joel.
I've milled over it.
Okay,
I'm milling over it.
okay.
What we want everybody to know, and I know you're on that planning commission, but it is not law.
Did they get copies of the?
We haven't got the great big one.
No, they haven't, but they do.
I've got the, we all have the little,
Yeah, some of us
Binder.
that came in this past week?
Yeah, they all got the link. as well.
Okay. It's vitally important to the county.
we're depending on your recommendation.
I think you have a feeling for it.
No comments from the attorney,
Thank you.
auditor's comments. Thank you, Ernie.
Ms. Rogers has presented something that she has requested to be read into the meeting minutes.
That will have to go through the attorney's approval, and he'll have to read that before that is happening, and that won't happen for this evening.
I guess, I mean, what, we had the hearing and everyone had the opportunity to speak. I mean, those are what they are, but that was the opportunity, and the individual had the opportunity to speak at that time.
Comment, please.
So they've been accepted into the meeting then?
Yeah, I mean.
Okay.
Comment, please.
Real quick, you got 2 minutes.
Under the publication for public hearing, you are to send comments to the auditor prior to the meeting and/or can come and speak. I did both. So those are,
And they're accepted in the meeting.
as long as they're accepted in and they become a part of the record, they don't have to be read and they're legal.
Right, they're in.
They're here.
They've been handed as you spoke, but both have been done.
Okay,
I'm good with that. Thank you.
that's what I was trying to get resolved. Commissioner comments? Joel?
None, there's nobody left to talk to, Gary. I talked to Jim. He's.
I think that I got all the comments in that I needed earlier to deal with the jail. I do have one comment. Council President Polly Chesser had made a comment that she was not available or not able to speak at the meeting. That is false information. There's no record in the minutes. There is no record in YouTube, in any of the meetings stating that fact. So I am questioning her on that, and there is no proof. And I know that Victor has jumped on that and threw that out there. Again, false truths, but you do whatever you got, because that's what you do. So, motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Counselor, you need to go home.
I'll take it off.